Okay, so I want you to think for a moment. Do you have any piece of equipment that you own many copies of? Maybe you own 100 different pumps of the same model, or maybe you have a whole fleet of wind turbines, or maybe you just have a number of 3 different gas turbines. Whenever you have items like that, you might have use for something called an element relative display in ProcessBook, and that's what we're showing here. With an element relative display, I can build a dashboard for one of my assets, in this case a wind turbine, and then on the left-hand side, I can select different versions of that asset, so different wind turbines in a farm, and my display will automatically update with information for the particular turbine. It's a super powerful part of PyProcessBook, and I'm going to show you how to build one of these from a blank display to this display you're seeing right here in this set of videos. So to begin with, let's start a new sheet. So you click on New, we'll go to ProcessBook Display, and we'll name it something nice like my asset relative display. Okay, and I'm doing turbines, so I'm going to put in turbines. So I have a blank display and I want to build a turbine element relative display. So I'll start off by just titling my sheet, so turbine status and turbine. So we're going to get right into building that element relative display we saw on the left there by whenever I click on a different turbine, I want the name of that turbine to show up on my sheet to tell me which turbine I'm looking at. So to do that, I'm going to select a value symbol. So just click here and then click on your sheet where you want it to go. And now defining the value, I'm going to go search for the turbine name. So I'm going to click this arrow here, and this time you're going to go to element relative. Click element relative. Now I'm searching the AF database Windtopia, which is hosted here at OSIsoft. You'll be searching whichever database you have. You might have only one database, or you might have a few. But you'll search the database that has the piece of equipment you're interested in, or the asset you're interested in. And then you'll go to template. Now I know I'm searching for a wind turbine, so I'm going to select from my templates. These are the types of equipment I have. I have a wind turbine. And I'm going to start by just searching for those. That's pretty good. And I get a return back. Looks like there are 72 wind turbines in my database. That's more than I'm really interested in browsing through, so I'm going to restrict it. If I go here and I select a certain search route, it'll only select part of my database. So now I can expand this tree here, and I can see I have many different farms. Each farm has a number of turbines in it. I really am only interested in seeing the turbines from Big Buffalo Wind Farm. So I'm going to select Big Buffalo. And now when I search, only 7 turbines come back for a small wind farm. I'm going to select all of these and say OK. And now you'll see my sheet has transformed a little bit. An element relative display has appeared on the left-hand side, with those 7 turbines I selected. Now we'll talk more about this pane on the left in a little bit, but right now I want to draw your attention to this box. So now I have a turbine selected, and these are all the attributes that are available for the turbine. So it's a whole lot of data. Every turbine has all of this data available to it. I'm interested in knowing the turbine name. There it is, turbine name. I'll click this little add arrow, and now turbine name's down here in the selected attributes. I'll say OK. And you'll notice now the tag is e.turbine_name for defined value, and it's on my sheet. And here's how you can check if it's working. You just click on the other elements, the other assets you have on the left, and you'll see it changing. So you see the name there, it's updating as I select different turbines here on the left-hand side. And as we can see, each one of these is a wind turbine. Great. Okay, so it's already working. So now we're ready to fill out our sheet. So the first thing I'm going to add is an image, because pictures are great. So click on Symbol Library, and then drag a box. Click and release. And I can browse through here and I can find whatever picture I want. You should find a picture for whichever asset you're working with. Maybe it's a boiler. Well, what I'm working with is a wind turbine. So I'm going to right click and find, and I can just search the names. It's not a very advanced search, but it will help. Oh, here they are. Okay. So here's all the different turbines, and this is the one I want. And it's on my sheet. Now I want it to face the other way. So if you want that, do that with your symbol, all you need to do is just double click on it, click on the options menu, and you get a whole lot of options for how to edit your symbol. I'm going to flip it horizontally and say OK. And now my turbine is faced the direction I want it to. Now we're going to fill out some basic text boxes. There you go. And I'm just copying and pasting from above. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill these out with the text of what I want to show, and then I'm going to link each of these up to the attribute of the selected turbine. So double click here. So when I'm interested in the energy actual and daily and expected, and the manufacturer, and I want to make these bigger too, so I'm going to say size 16 and size 16, and I'm going to justify them so that they're all well arranged to the right. Here we go. And now all I need to do is, for each of these values, link them up to that attribute. So I'll double click on this, and here I'm going to click this little arrow and go to element relative again. And this time I don't need to do any searching. It already knows I'm looking at this wind turbine over here. And now I'm looking for the daily energy actual, so I'll just scroll through and find the daily energy actual. There it is. I'll click the arrow here to bring it into the selected attributes. I need to remove the turbine name because this is the value symbol and only one will be shown. So I only need to have one down here. Daily energy actual. Say OK. I want to see the units, so I'm going to click units. And I see the daily energy actual. Then we're going to do the same thing for expected. Show units. And this is one of the neat things you can do with a asset relative display like this. We can show just some text information about this turbine. Maybe I want to know, well, when I select this, who made it and what's the model name? Because that changes what I'd expect to see out of this turbine. So I can double click on this, go to element relative, and now I can find the manufacturer. There it is, manufacturer by Acme. And I can make it the attribute that I'm showing. And then a model name. Same idea. Now I can show the model name. There it is. I can also double click on this to bring it down. Turbine name I'll remove. Okay. And again, if I click on different turbines here on the left, all my values will update, just like I want them to. I'll make this larger so we can see them. Great. And I want to make these larger as well. Stupendous. Okay. So next I want to put in a few trends that will also be linked up to my element relative display. To link a trend up to an element relative display, I'll click trend and I'll just add a trend like I normally would. Drag and drop. And in it, I'll search for an element relative, and I'll be able to select from this list of whatever asset I have. selected over here. I have a wind turbine, but it'll be whatever asset you have selected. I can select from all the attributes available for that asset. I'm interested in showing the active power and the apparent power on this trend. So I can select two of them. I can select many of them, as many as you want. And then we'll say OK. And they'll both appear in this area, which is the to be plotted area. OK. And if I say OK, I'll see my trend. And again, I can experiment with it by selecting different turbines, and I can see that they are updating just like I want them to. That's superb. Now, I also want to show another trend, so I'm going to copy and paste this right below it. I want to show the capacity. So this time, I'll search for the capacity. There it is, the capacity. But I only want to see the capacity. I don't want to see these other items in the trend, so I'll press the X button here and delete them from the trace. And I'm left with just the capacity. And I want to adjust the time scale because this isn't quite showing me enough information. This isn't a very interesting chart right now. So I'm going to change this to be the last 7 days. Yeah, so we can see how this wind turbine has been performing over the last 7 days. Next, I want to change some of the formatting of my trend. I want to name it first of all. So I can come into the plot name and say this is the kilowatt power, active and apparent. You can see it's shown up there. I can also, so I'll click on trace format, and I want to see something a bit more lively than this gray background. So I'll select background from my drop-down list here. Then in the color, I'm actually going to do a custom color. So you can click custom color, and you get this whole option area, and you can select anything you want. I'm going to select a nice blue. So I'm going to blue right there, and then maybe I'll lighten it a little bit. Add it to my colors. Okay. Yeah, I like that. And then you'll notice that now I want to do the same thing to my trend down here. I want to name it the percent capacity. And I want to change the background color to that same customized color. And now you see I have two trends that both are responding to an element relative display. The next thing I'm going to show how to add is some bar graphs. So some element relative bar graphs. You'll click the bar option up here, and then we'll just drag and drop a bar graph. And it's very similar to how we added for a value. We'll search for an element relative. Now what I want to do is I want this bar graph to kind of show me the current status of what's already on my trend. So I'm going to select the active power for 1. Great. Okay, so that bar graph's right there. And I'm just going to copy and paste it. And now I'm going to search for element relative. Now the apparent power, which is just the other trace on my trend. Now you notice this one scales 0 to 1,000. This one is 0 to 1,600, or maybe negative. I want these both to be locked down to be exactly 0 to 1,600 and no more or no less. So I'm going to double click on it, and I can change the scale here, 600, and set this lower to 0. And the same with this, lower 0. And I want to match the color actually to the trend itself. So to do that, all I need to do is select it, and then with the formatting toolbar, I can select a fill color. So that one's green, and this one here, this one's color is that blue color. So I'll match those, and I'll shrink them, and then I can stick them right next to my trend. And I can do the same thing for the capacity. I'll just bring this down here, double click on it, and this time find the capacity. Now I could search for it, or if you're tricky, you can also just type it in, capacity. And the capacity goes from 0 to 100, so I'm going to change that. So you can see now I have the capacity. And it looks like I need to change the scale of this to be 0 to 100. Here we go. So now we have bar graphs that are showing the current status of the turbine I have selected. Isn't that something? Okay, the next step is important though, is pretty basic, which is just make your sheet look great. If your display is appealing, it's going to be used more. So go ahead and spend some time to make it look good. Maybe ask around and see what people like. So to begin with, I'm not a big fan of the gray background. I like to change it up. So maybe something really clean and white. So I'll double click over here and I'll change it to white. Right, now that's pretty bright, so I do want some color in here. I'm going to put a bar on the top. I'm going to make it purple. Yeah. And I'm going to use my arrange button to send it to the back. And then I'm going to do the same for this data here. I can put this here, and again I'll send it to the back. Now one thing I need to do, I want to change this color because it's kind of a harsh purple right now. Maybe do a custom color, and this time I'm going to find a purple and bring it down a little bit. And I'll do a similar thing over here. But this time I actually want these to be an outline box around each of these values, which really makes it easy to see those values. Okay. There we go. Send each of these to the back. And now that we have each of these, I can remove the background of my values and make them see-through. So I'll just remove the coloring. Oops, and now these values need to be black actually. I see. So I'll change them to be black. Great. And I'm just using my arrow keys and putting this in. You can spend as much time as you want to make this just perfect and beautiful as you wish. Alright. Yeah, much better. I like this display a lot. And now if I select around, the display still works and shows me the values and the asset attributes of each of those turbines. And I can change it, I can add different graphics. You can do anything you want to with this ProcessBook display. Alright, now the last step with this ProcessBook display is to expand the power of this element relative display. What you have right now might be just what you want, in which case you can stop and carry on. But one thing I want you to consider is, well, this here, I have 7 wind turbines over here. Well, in my whole enterprise, I have more than 7 wind turbines. I actually have many different farms of wind turbines. So what you can do, let me show you where that is because it's a little hidden. Scroll over. If you click on Find and Add New Element Contexts, you can add more things to click through on the left-hand side. So remember, I searched before for wind turbines inside Big Buffalo Wind Farm, and I found 7 wind turbines. Well, now I want to actually have the different farms over here on the left. So that's going to take a different template. I'm going to search for a wind farm template. And I'm just going to search for all of my wind farms. and I'll see there's 10. So what I just did is I searched for wind farms, and I found 10 of them. And you'll see here they are. There's the Big Buffalo, there's the Deep Valley Wind Farm, there's the Wild White Bear. Oh, great names. Now, I'm interested in seeing turbines from Big Buffalo, Black Wolf, and Grand Ridge. So I'll select those using the Control key and say OK. And look what happened. They appeared over here in the left-hand side, and they're expandable. So I can expand one of my farms and select turbines within it. Or maybe this would be different buildings for you, and inside different buildings there's different reactors or tanks. Or maybe these are different sites, and different sites have different production lines. And you can select different production lines at different sites and compare them right next against each other in one display. To clean up this element relative area over here, I might want to remove these wind turbines since they're already duplicated inside Big Buffalo. To do that, you just press delete on top of it, or you can left click and remove element of interest. You can select a number of them and remove them all at once. And now I have expandable farms, and I can select turbines within each one. Just a note, data will only show up while you have a turbine selected. So if I select the wind farm itself, there's no data because there's no daily energy actual that applies to a wind farm, only to a wind turbine. That's how to make an element relative display in ProcessBook. It's an extremely powerful way to leverage all of your asset information and explore and show information about assets, equipment, or lines that are important to you, all from one ProcessBook display. From here, all you need to do is just save it and pull it up again.